FNP-C.com with your daily news update. That's my son. He has to say something to me right now, but he can wait for a moment. All right. Apologize for that. At any rate, here we are on August the 20th in the year of our Lord 2025. I have some great information for you. Let me jump over here, Murtek on Rumble. Okay, my episode 1660 is what you're watching now. Let me go ahead and get into that. And that. Let me slide down here and open up the description box. My son likes to come up here and hang out with me when I do my videos, so, all right, we have information from ACLJ Sekulow, Charlie Kirk, Devory Darkins, and Dr. Steve Turley. But before we get into that, I do need to give a shout out here to Steve Loomis, just started following my channel. Joanne Willis, 78, just started following my channel. Island Reformer just started following my channel, and I got Joanne in there twice for some reason. But at any rate, thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, Viper Senior commented on my episode 1659. So thank you very much for your comment, and thank you for following my channel. Let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. Okay, let's get into this. ACLJ Sekulow, Newsom pushes election integrity disaster for California citizens. All right, let's take a listen and see what that's all about.
Gavin Newsom has decided, hey, slow down, Texas. You may have the right to redistrict, but I don't care that I don't have the right. I don't have the law. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to do it by holding a special election because I want to be able to redistrict too.
They're criticizing Texas for following the way their law is set up, that their state legislature decides how the congressional maps are drawn. And as a news item as well, the Texas House last night actually was able to get to a quorum because dozens of those Democrats that fled the state came back to Austin. So it looks like they will be moving forward with their plan. But what Gavin Newsom is doing here isn't doing what Texas is doing. They're not using their normal process to try and change their congressional maps. He's trying to go outside of what their state law has on the books that the people of his state voted for. And according to a recent poll from Politico, 64% of the state wants the power to remain in the hands of that independent commission.
Majority.
But what he's doing now is he's taking what is supposed to be independent bipartisan in his state for 15 years that his state voted on, and taking it and making it purely political. We know that around 40% of Californians vote Republican. So when you look at that, but you realize how few representatives are from that state, he's taking an already politicized map and trying to make it more political by redrawing the lines to combat Texas. And what has to happen here is they have to approve legislative language by Friday. So they have to get it voted out so that they can then start notifying and plan for this special election by November 4th is his plan. They already have some municipal elections there. But in order for that to happen, it has to be redrawn by the end of the year because candidates for the midterm cycles start declaring candidacy and all those things early next year. So really, they're on a time crunch. This is kind of a dice roll. If he loses this ability and then the people of the state don't vote for this redistricting, there's some egg on his face, sort of look, I took on Trump and the Republicans. But it just reeks of political gamesmanship when he is saying we are trying to protect democracy against someone who is elected to the presidency and to members of Congress and members of a state legislature by saying we're going to change our law real fast and try to do something that 64% of the state probably doesn't want, only to play games with our House of Representatives in the United States. It's disgusting, and they're about to spend about $250 million of Californian taxpayer money in order to get this special election done. Meanwhile, the state has a $55 billion deficit last year. Does anyone actually want to see this done?
He's another guy who's just attention hungry, especially when he is eyeing a presidential run. We know this. It's very clear. It's very obvious. It's been obvious for years. This is a guy who has eyes set beyond the governor of California, and his eyes are set at the presidency. He doesn't care if it breaks any laws or if it changes anything or that he can go in and do it. It's about getting attention, getting press, getting news. And look, I got to give it to him. We're giving it to him right now. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. We also don't want to get blindsided if you're one of our California supporters who don't know this is happening, and then all of a sudden what you voted into law just 15 years ago gets upended because you have a governor who has decided to take matters into his own hands because of his own endeavors, his own plans to seek the White House in just a few years.
The cynicism that the Democrats have poured into our political system, which was already pretty rough as it was, but that, hey, what they're doing is trying to take our democracy, take away people's representation. So what are we going to do? We're going to do it, but do it worse. I mean, just the reality of that is so shocking that Gavin Newsom is willing to rush forward a constitutional amendment or a ballot proposition, Proposition 50, which he's saying represents all 50 states because this is a national issue. It's just shocking that they're willing to go that far over something. And they're even calling it the Election Rigging Response Act is the legislative package they're putting forward, wanting to say that it's President Trump that is in the Republicans in Texas that are rigging elections. So what are we going to do? We're going to force something through real quick so we can redraw our maps and make them even more unfair than they already are. And we're going to put that forward as if this is democracy. They're taking the bait in some way of showing it. But this also goes back to, Logan, I mean, there was this New York Times article, opinion piece that came out just a few days ago. And it shows what really the left is at the heart of, because the mouthpiece for the left, the New York Times, decided to put up this long interview and article accompanying opinion piece that says, abolish the Senate, in the Electoral College, pack the court, why the left can't win without a new constitution. Yeah. It shows they're saying that President Trump is putting us into a constitutional crisis. No, everything they're doing is trying to get rid of that very constitution they're saying he's putting in crisis. They don't believe in it. We used to have a system where the two parties at least had different opinions on what the Constitution said, but still believed in it being our foundational document. The Democrat Party and the left is so far removed from that now, they don't even believe in our foundational document and want to get rid of it. And I think the New York Times being willing to put this out there and saying, oh, we're going to listen to all voices. No, they don't. They amplify the voices they want to be heard. And this is a scary amplification.
They also know it's going to get clicks. They know people like you are going to read and go, oh, what are they doing? Oh, the leftist. And you click on it and you get angry. So remember, they're all doing it for the clicks. That's the only way they make money is advertising revenue. And they barely make money to begin with that. So what are you going to do? Say, abolish the Constitution. Get rid of the Electoral College. Okay, that's not that controversial. People talk about that every election season. So get rid of the Electoral College. We got to get rid of the Constitution. We got to, what else was in there?
And abolish the Senate.
Oh, the Senate. Senate's got to go away. As if the Senate isn't razor thin conservative. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Well, the problem is that it's too close. And because of the filibuster rule, you have to get 2/3 majority. It's much easier for them to redraw their districts and get a lot more Democrats in the House of Representatives and then have essentially mob rule in the country.
I hope you've liked this hot map talk we've had.
Now, California's only justification for this that they're saying, and they're having to jump through a lot of hoops to get there, is not because of population. They're just saying we're doing it because we're mad at Texas for doing it. So, I mean, you know, the old two wrongs don't make a right. If they truly believe that this is wrong, what Texas is doing, then having to jump through all these very extra special hurdles to get to another wrong should not right that. And I think that shows how disingenuous they are about the whole thing. In reality, Gavin Newsom sees a way to spend his state's money, $250 million plus of it, to do this wild theory to try and take on the Republicans, trying to own Trump. He's even, if you look at his X account, he's trying to mock Trump, doing bold letters, all caps, saying, thank you for your attention to this matter, thinking it's making him like a superhero. But in reality, everyone knows the left can't meme, and he's failing at this as well.
All righty, there you have it, folks. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. ACLJ, a Sekulow recap. I'm following the channel, giving them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty, there you have it. And let's click back over here and see what Charlie Kirk has to say on Secretary Chris Wright explains, how Trump 2.0 is making America energy dominant again. Sounds great to me. Let's take a listen, see what they're saying.
We are going to start right out of the gate with a great man who's doing phenomenal work that deserves more praise and attention. It's all about energy dominance and rejecting the green scam of the left. It is the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Mr. Secretary, welcome to the program. First time, great to see you. First, Mr. Secretary, you come from a very accomplished business career, and now you are in government. How has that transition been, and what have you learned now that you have to fight bureaucrats all day long and the environmental lobby?
Thanks for having me, Charlie. Yeah, look, I'm one of those people. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've always said I'm never going to be in government. They move slow. I don't even want to be in a big company. I want to be hard driving and make stuff happen. But in this government with President Trump, it is fast moving. It is business-like. If we want to lean in and take a risk, we should fix this policy. The president says, absolutely, find some more things to fix. So it isn't the slow-moving bureaucratic thing I feared under President Trump's leadership and the rest of the cabinet. So it is a wild change. My powers or ability to do things are quite different in the government than they are in business. But in this government, I'm highly confident we will make massive changes in these 4 years, and I'm proud and honored to be here to do it because it matters. We have needlessly victimized Americans with expensive energy and pushed industries overseas. That's just wrong. And with this president, we're going to stop it.
That's phenomenal to hear, and that's a great setup. So let's take a step back. Talk about what you inherited. What was the Department of Energy doing before your leadership under Joe Biden? What were their priorities? What were their investments? What was their worldview? And how does your now daily grind contrast with the last administration? You know, we talk a lot about, of course, the Ukraine-Russian war and ending that. We talk about the border. We talk about the economy. But the energy is literally, in the most literal sense, not metaphorically, the life force of a civilization. It is the lifeblood. You cannot have growth. You cannot have AI. You cannot have people flying from New York to LA affordably if you do not have energy. So talk about what you inherited, talk about what the previous Department of Energy was doing, and then contrast that with your work.
Yeah, so the previous Department of Energy, as you heard for those 4 years, and you didn't hear a lot for them, they were kind of behind the scenes, but they were part of this all of government battle against climate change, as they would describe it. So all of the money, all the focus, all the effort was on wind, solar, batteries, and electric vehicles. Collectively, wind, solar, and batteries are 3% of United States energy, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's 3% of our energy. And everywhere they've achieved meaningful penetration, you get more expensive electricity prices. So just a train wreck that was not going to change the energy system of the United States. And in fact, they actively stood in front of natural gas, our fastest growing source of energy and our fastest growing export. You heard about the LNG pause, and I don't know if I have time to go into that, but they actually did a whole report before the pause that showed economically it was positive for the United States and it was going to slightly lower greenhouse gas emissions, more LNG exports. And they hated that answer so much they buried the report, never spoke about it. Although when I got in, we found it. A much longer report than they ultimately released later. But just so, again, they were against energy, the energy that powers our world. They were willing to be dishonest, and they thought all of the nonsense they were doing was somehow going to stop climate change and make the world safer. Just, again, also completely contrary to the facts and the data. So it's been quite a change.
Yeah, and so and you've taken on the entire kind of climate science world. Energy Department attacks client assignments in contentious report. By the way, you're in safe company here. We think this is all politicized. This is driven towards a environmentalist agenda that is trying to weaken American energy dominance. The agency asked 5 climate skeptics to write a report criticizing the consensus on global warming. First of all, science does not have consensus. This is a very important thing, right?
Right.
Science says nothing. Scientists say things, okay? Science never talks. Science is silent. This is a good thing that could apply to everything. Scientists say things. And scientists, like we learned during COVID, we learned during the lockdowns, learned during the vaccines, can say a lot of different things with the data. Now, again, global warming does not have consensus like the second law of thermodynamics. Global warming does not have consensus like a object at rest will stay at rest. Your reaction, Mr. Secretary, and how you think about this, because again, let me read this New York Times article. The consensus on global warming. What an outrageous claim. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I always give the contrast between the science, which is what the left likes, which is the opposite of science. Science is a process of challenge and engagement and debate, wrestling with data. And if the data doesn't agree with your model is wrong. Where the science is this top-down, authority-driven thing used with COVID, to me, was the climate movement, and fast forward, the science told you what to do. But as you said, Turley, look at those critics. They critique the authors, 5 skeptics. Well, skeptical of what? They presented, these are 5 highly distinguished scientists. One of them was Undersecretary for Science in the Obama administration, provost at Caltech, PhD from MIT. All of those scientists were accomplished scientists that are also tired of this censorship of the science, censoring real science and real process of engagement. But even on my CNN interview a couple weeks ago, I went on to talk about the climate report. There are 0 questions about climate change. 0. They want to impugn the writers or impugn the way we reference people. They want to find little things. What we want to talk about is the data. Let's talk about climate science. Like, it's a real phenomenon. It's a slow-moving phenomenon, not even remotely close to the world's biggest problem, but it's used by the left to justify big government and top-down control of everything. Let's be honest. Let's engage in real science, as you said. That's what we're about. And I'm excited to have that debate over 4 years. We're going to end a lot of children's nightmares. We're going to end a lot of people trying to be pushed around and bullied by people that don't know what they're talking about. Like, I've spent 20 years studying climate science and physical data, and the people who are passionate about it never want to debate me because they don't know anything about it. But we're going to have that debate, whether they want it or not.
Science is a process. It doesn't tell you anything. People tell you a method. It's a methodology. And good science, which again is a verb, they act as if, well, science, puts something out. No, you do science. You go in exploration of truth. And then once you have a conclusion, you have to measure it, you have to analyze it, you have to inquire it, you have to cross-reference it. And we're bringing back that methodology to our government, RFK at HHS, and you at the Department of Energy. Last question, Secretary Chris Wright, doing a great job, Department of Energy. How are we going to be able to scale up our electricity output drastically in years to come? We see the United Kingdom with the highest electricity rates in the world. What is your plan to do that? Because Americans inherited very high electricity rates, and some are still paying too much in electricity. We need to solve that.
Exactly. And you mentioned the United Kingdom and Germany, 2 countries that went down the policy pathway the Biden administration wanted to go down. They tripled their electricity prices. They pushed all their industry out of their countries. And yet the Biden administration wanted to do that. That's just crazy. So we're going to bring common sense back to energy. We're going to let utilities and data center developers build what makes sense economically for them. We're not going to have mandates or subsidies to build unreliable electricity generating systems. People want to build solar, fine, go build it. But most all wind and solar and new transmission lines that have been built have been because they're heavily subsidized. We paid people to put unreliable electricity on the grid. We knew where that was leading, more expensive electricity and less stable grids. That's the direction we've gone. We're going to reverse that direction, build new generation. It'll, of course, in the short term, it'll mostly be natural gas. Nuclear will also come online, but we're going to let market forces make those decisions. Every state in America that has expensive electricity prices, they have it because the politicians chose it. It isn't bad luck. It isn't anything. It was chosen by their politicians. California decided to have expensive electricity and push their industry out and impoverish their people, as did New England and New York and now New Jersey. These are all bad choices.
This is one of the most important things happening in the country.
Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units.
You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip. Because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone.
Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
All right, good information there. Okay, coming back here, let's come down here to Devory Darkins, and let's see what he has to say about Democrat caught cheating, suffer major loss in Boston mayor, as Boston mayor drops awkward press conference. Okay, let's see what Devory has to say.
States are now pushing back after President Trump announced yesterday he will be signing an executive order aimed at banning mail-in ballots nationwide ahead of the 2026 midterm. Trump has long blamed mail-in ballots for his 2020 election loss. It's a topic that he says actually came up during his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday.
Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots.
All right. So number one, this is the type of story where you see Democrats and the mainstream media get so distracted and obsessed that they become confused and they're all over the place, okay? Because they have to react to everything that the president says or does. Point number two, which is really in the form of a question, it doesn't matter whether or not you believe the 2020 election was stolen. It doesn't matter whether you believe someone can get 81 million votes or not. What matters is answering this question. Do you believe the most secure way to vote in our elections is by placing your ballot into a mailbox? Do you believe that is the most secure way? Please put your guys' answers in the comment section below. Now, let's first hear from the Secretary of State out of Colorado because she felt the need to go on to CNN and push back on this. Take a listen.
To make it very clear, he will not be successful. I have beat him over and over and over as he has attempted in 2020 to roll back mail ballots. But mail ballots do not help one party over another. That's what all the data shows. It just helps voters vote in a secure and accessible way. And to put it in perspective, we do have vote by mail. We send it to every active voter, but we have weeks of early voting, same-day voter registration, a lot of in-person voting options. And in 2024, 92% of Republican voters chose to use their mail ballot.
Okay, I got to say something about this same-day voter registration. So, you can fly over here from China, Iraq, North Korea, Russia, anywhere. Venezuela, you can fly in here to the United States, register, vote, and then fly back home. Is that secure? Okay. Same day registration and voting. Boy, what's to prevent that from happening? And this BI itch right here, you would think she would ask that question. Wait a minute. What's to stop people from flying into the country and registering and voting and flying back out? But no, she's CNN. What do you expect?
This isn't about security. This is about, again, a weak president grasping at straws, trying to hold on to power. He has escalated his attacks on our elections from weaponizing the DOJ to trying to keep MAGA control of Congress through corrupt redistricting. We need to fight back.
Yeah, so as predicted, we knew people would lose their mind over that statement. And before I go any further, if you feel like you're getting value from this video as you watch this, please like, share, and subscribe. If you do want to support us further, you have two options. Shop our merch store where we release new t-shirt designs every week, or you can simply buy us a cup of coffee by going to the links in the description below. Okay, so I expect that your answers are in the comment section below as it relates to what is the most secure way to cast a vote. Is it through mail-in ballot? Now, my answer is no, very clearly. And it's not just my opinion, because I'm going to show you why that is not the case. There are individuals coming out of the state of Michigan who are now being prosecuted for stuffing ballot boxes in order to win their elections. Take a look.
New video obtained by Local 4 shows a black pickup truck pulling up outside Hamtramck City Hall in the middle of the night, just days before the primary election. All of a sudden, the lights turn on inside the truck. That's when you spot 3 men inside, including what appears to be Council Member Abu Musa in the back seat, the same council member who is seeking re-election right now. The video then shows the driver getting out and stuffing absentee ballots into the drop box. The only problem? They don't all fit. He then starts pushing them in before reaching for 2 more stacks. The whole time looking around to see if anyone is watching. After about 2 minutes, the group drives away. And get this, Local 4 found that it happened again, only 4 days later. This time, a different car pulling up with what appears to be the same council member in the passenger seat. He then starts handing bundles of ballots to the driver, dropping off 3 large stacks. City election results show Musa received 1,129 votes during the primary, making him the top contender for city council in November. Michigan State Police confirmed the videos are part of an ongoing investigation. It all comes just days after 2 Hamtramck City Council members were charged with election fraud.
Okay, are you guys getting it here? So Democrats claim, no, our elections are secure. Right? We're not stuffing ballots. That doesn't exist. Mail-in ballot is one of the most secure ways to cast your vote. Really? It's also one of the most easiest ways to cheat in an election. Did everybody know that? I mean, when you're talking about using an electric machine, okay, like the Dominion voting machines, you can't hack into those remotely. And so if I really wanted to get some extra votes, especially if my election came down to, let's say, 100 votes, yeah, I could throw in 101 absentee ballots into the mailbox. Why not? And that's exactly what we see here. But it doesn't stop there. They'll even go as far as to forge signatures on ballots. Take a listen.
Would you like to make any comment about the charges against you? Did you forge any election ballots? Any charges?
No comments. No, thank you.
So are you innocent?
Silence as Councilman Mutasin Sadman and Mohammed Hassan turned themselves in at City Hall Tuesday. The 2 leaders arraigned on charges of election and absentee ballot fraud.
Forging a signature on an absentee ballot application.
Sadman appearing first in court, given a personal bond of $7,500.
State of Michigan versus Mohammed Kamrul Hassan.
Hassan then appearing next, receiving a lower personal bond of $2,500. We even confronted Hassan again in the hallway.
Is there any comment you would like to make on the charges?
But again, no response. The felony charges were handed down Monday by the Monroe County prosecutor, who received the case from the Michigan Attorney General after she recused herself to avoid bias. The allegation stemming from the 2023 election. That's when the city clerk noticed unusual patterns with absentee ballots, including identical handwriting on envelopes and large bundles dropped off at once. 4 current and 1 former council member were originally named in the case, with only 2 being charged. In a statement, Hamtramck's mayor said in part, "We want to ensure fair trial for everyone and justice should prevail in the end." And there is a council meeting tonight at 7. Both of these councilmen, they still have their seat on the council. But the bigger question is, will they show up tonight? And of course, we will be here to find out.
I got to ask you a question. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little break.
He's going into a commercial here.
Like you reach.
So let's go ahead and get past that.
It's interesting. We'll have to look into that. Secondly, clear a couple of troubling things. Number one, the Michigan Attorney General had to recuse herself. I wonder why that is. It's interesting. We'll have to look into that. Secondly, clearly at the local level, someone could cheat in an election. No problem at all because it's mail-in ballot. You're telling me I can stuff a ballot box with absentee ballots, forge their signature, and people will count that as a vote. That's exactly what happened. They just finally caught up to it, right? This happened 2 years ago. So this brings me to point number 3. Again, I don't care whether you believe the 2020 election was stolen or not. The fact of the matter is, it's not a secure way to cast a vote in our elections as it stands today. Now, if you're a veteran overseas, that's an entirely different situation, entirely different conversation. I guarantee we could probably find a better or more secured way to make sure their votes are protected and casted, and there's no way to cheat. And so the point here is that even though we show you this story and these clips to prove that cheating does occur, MSDNC, MS Now, I guess is their new name, still doesn't buy it. Take a look.
Again, we've long thought about how Republicans have been pushing, especially recently, I think, again, the whole idea of mail-in voting. Just give you an example from Politico. Pennsylvania, leading up to the last election, spent $16 million in that state. In another battleground state, North Carolina, Republicans actually sent in more mail-in ballots last time, again, when Donald Trump won, than Democrats. Is Trump just undermining all that work?
Yes, he is. Well, first of all, I want to echo your endorsement of nuts as a bunny. It's a great expression. We should all use it. I do think
I'm taking it for my own.
Yeah, no, it's all yours. Look, it's Republicans made great ground up in 2024. Trump got a ton of votes this way. And of course, he's undermining Republicans here. And everyone sort of knows it. I don't know if it's part of some other nefarious agenda where he can maybe challenge Democratic victories and try to overturn them and sort of claim that if Republicans or if Democrats win a majority in the House or Senate, it's illegitimate somehow, and then we have all kinds of chaos and God knows what. But yeah, this is definitely counterproductive, and it doesn't seem like it will go anywhere good for Republicans. And certainly, Trump, I'm not sure he knows what he's doing here, but he did it, so this is what he's up to.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. Of course, that was MS Now, MSNBC, what the hell ever, lying by a different name. Okay, I guess they're not going to change their name till later in the year. But this is ridiculous. And, this is something, if you followed me any time at all, you know that this is one of my major concerns is election integrity. There's too much fraud out there. And mail-in ballots are just another way to commit fraud. Here in Indiana, show up to the poll, you pull out your driver's license, they scan it, you ask for your signature, and that signature has to match. Otherwise, you don't get to vote. Okay? Okay, this does come from Devory Darkins. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and move along to Dr. Steve Turley. Mexican cartel breaches border, and this is what U.S. Marines just did. Whoa, that sounds interesting. Let's take a look at that. Let me get this back to the beginning for you. And here we go.
Mexican cartels just made their biggest mistake yet. They pushed so far into American territory that President Trump just unleashed the most devastating military response in decades. Over 4,500 Marines and sailors are now deploying to the Caribbean with F-35 fighter jets, nuclear submarines, and guided missile destroyers. But here's the data that'll shock you and explain why this military action was absolutely inevitable. Stick with me to the very end of this video, because you're going to see the staggering numbers behind why these aren't just drug dealers anymore. They are full-blown foreign terrorist organizations controlling more American territory than most people realize. And the financial data I'm about to show you proves this was never about drugs. It was about something far more profitable and far more sinister. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of all the madness as the far left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age that you made possible. So if you want a front row seat on how you are changing the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Let me give you some mind-blowing data here. These Mexican cartels generated over $13 billion in 2024 from human trafficking alone. You heard that right. 13 billion. That's up from 500 million in 2018. And that's what Biden and the Democrats did. Their open border policies created one of the most lucrative black markets on the planet. Now, to put that in perspective, 13 billion makes them larger than 64% of Fortune 500 companies. And that's just human trafficking. That don't even include their drug revenues, which the DEA estimates to be well into the multi-billions. So we're not dealing with street gangs anymore, gang. We're dealing with multinational criminal corporations with military-grade equipment, sophisticated logistics networks, and annual revenues that dwarf entire state budgets. But here's what should terrify every American. According to declassified DEA intelligence, Mexican cartels now operate in over 1,200 U.S. cities across all 50 states. That's not drug distribution. That's territorial occupation. The Sinaloa cartel alone operates in at least 75 American cities. The Gulf cartel controls operations in 37 cities. These aren't isolated drug deals. These are command and control structures operating on American soil. But territorial control was just phase one. Phase two was chemical warfare against American citizens. Fentanyl killed over 107,000 Americans in 2022. 107,000. That's twice the fatalities from the entire Vietnam War. Twice the fatalities in every single subsequent year. U.S. Customs seized over 27,000 pounds of fentanyl in 2023 alone. And when you realize that just 2 milligrams can be enough to kill you, that means that the fentanyl that we seized could have killed every man, woman, and child in America 6 times over. And that's just what we caught. The cartels manufacture these pills in Mexico for about 2 cents each. Then they sell them in American cities for up to $60 per pill. That's a 3,000% profit margin while they systematically poison our population. And that is why President Trump is responding with an unprecedented military deployment that promises to crush these cartels once and for all. But first, gang, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor to today's video, and that's Block Trust.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move past this commercial.
They do their mission perfectly aligned. Americans build impressive wealth. Game that apart for limited to create. On January 20th, Trump signed an executive order officially designating 8 major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. So on day one of his presidency, Trump classified these cartels the same as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But classification was just the beginning. Last week, Trump secretly signed a military directive authorizing the Pentagon to use armed forces against these terrorist organizations, both at sea and on foreign territory. The numbers are absolutely staggering. Over 4,500 Marines from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, the USS Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group, F-35B fighter jets, P-8 Poseidon spy planes, nuclear attack submarines, and guided missile destroyers. Here's what makes this different from every previous anti-drug operation. We already have all the intelligence. U.S. drones have been conducting surveillance over Mexico for months now. We know exactly where every major cartel leader lives, trains, and operates. This is not a search mission. It's a target acquisition. Military officials are already drawing up strike plans based on real-time intelligence. When Trump gives the order, these operations won't take months or years. Just like what we saw in Iran, it'll be over in literally hours. Now, this is not just an issue of national security here. There's an economic reality to all this, a significant one. Eliminating these cartels would save America hundreds of billions of dollars annually. I mean, more than that. The opioid crisis alone costs our economy over $1 trillion per year in healthcare, lost productivity, and criminal justice expenses. Human trafficking generates $13 billion for the cartels, but costs American taxpayers over $150 billion in social services, law enforcement, and emergency health care for smuggled migrants. So we're literally funding our own invasion through the welfare system. Meanwhile, cartels are now stealing Mexico's state-owned oil and selling it on the black market. They're conducting illegal mining operations. I mean, they're not just drug dealers anymore. They're literally a parallel government that's destabilizing both our countries. And this brings us, I believe, to the final calculation that makes military action against these cartels inevitable. Cartels now pose a greater threat to American sovereignty than most nation states do. They control more territory inside the United States than some foreign countries, including China. They kill more Americans annually than most wars. They generate more revenue than most national economies. I mean, at what point does a criminal organization become an invading army? Well, for President Trump, the answer is simple. $13 billion in annual revenue, presence in over 1,200 American cities, and over 107,000 dead Americans per year. That's it. That's it. You are now officially an invading enemy. What's so key to get here is that our U.S. Marines are being deployed not to fight a drug war. They're being deployed to fight an invasion that's been going on for decades while politicians look the other way. The question isn't whether military action against cartels is justified. I mean, hopefully the data I showed you throughout this video makes that undeniable. The question is whether we'll finally treat this invasion like the national security threat it's always been. President Trump has left no doubt.
All right. Great information. Great information. He's going to go on and do another commercial there at the end. But let me click over here on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I am following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right. Jumping back here to the description box that has all this information in here, folks. The videos that I shared with you, the link to them, also the link to the producer's channel, Dr. Steve Turley. If you come down here and you click on this link for Dr. Steve Turley is the producer of this video, the link to this channel is, you click on that, it's going to take you right to his channel. So I'm not trying to take anything from anyone. I'm just sharing this information out. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this out, but I do like to put together a nice, neat little package of a variety of news, you know, no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. Also, looks like we have a little extra time left, so I want to jump over here and give you a bonus from Wendy Bell. Let's come over here to Murtec.com and slide down here. And incidentally, these videos that I shared with you are videos that I post here at Murtec.com. Here's the video from Dr. Steve Turley right there. Here's the video from ACLJ Sekulow. Okay, here's the video from Devory Darkins. So all this information that I'm sharing with you is information that I post on Murtec.com. And yes, there's a link to Murtec.com in the description box also. Okay, Wendy Bell radio. Democrats need fake data to cover up. That sounds reasonable. But she's got a piece here. I'm going to start it off at like her second segment. Great information from Carolyn Levitt. So let's take a listen to this and see what she has to say. Hope I got this supposed to be starting here at the 35-minute and 36-second mark. If it starts playing, I'll be absolutely ecstatic. Come on, you can do it. Let me do a quick refresh here. Hello. Hello. Sorry, I don't know why Rome's not allowing this to play. Let me try something else. Let me come over here. If you click on the name of the channel that the video comes from, it's going to take you directly to the channel. Hope Rome's not, there we go. Okay. Man, this is loading slow. I don't know what the problem here is. My Wi-Fi seems to be working correctly. Somebody must be hacking into Rumble or something. I don't understand why. Here we go. All right, there we go. Sorry about the delay, folks.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. If you think about this at 30,000 feet, where I like to go, above the clouds, above the propaganda, the fake news, the finger pointing, the gaslighting, and all of the Democrats' sanctimonious do-goodery of idiocy, right? You get to see how preposterous some of this stuff is. Donald Trump has forced the Democratic Party to choose anything other than peace, because peace would be something in Ukraine and Russia that would be brokered by President Trump, that would be the ultimate feather in his cap, which Trump doesn't see that way. He sees as the ultimate responsibility to the planet, to stop people from dying. We've gotten to this point where there is a true road, a path, not just to a ceasefire. Forget the ceasefire. Ceasefires are shaky. Ceasefires can be broken. Peace deals are everlasting. Donald Trump, when he went over to meet with Putin in Alaska last Friday, he said before he left, I'll know within 2 minutes if some kind of movement to end this senseless war that never should have begun is possible. Margaret Brennan tried to skewer him when she had on Marco Rubio the next day on her program. Donald Trump said in 2 minutes he was going to get it done, and he's like, that's not what he said. He said he was going to sit down and see if something is possible. Well, we heard yesterday, Steve Witkoff, the presidential special envoy, the guy who goes out and kind of greases the skids for all of these deals, said something so interesting about being in the room, about being there, about experiencing the change in Vladimir Putin the minute President Trump shook his hand and started speaking with him. I want you to hear this before I bring in Caroline Levitt, who absolutely lights up the fake news for refusing to just cover the basic facts. Two men meeting, and then Zelensky coming in to meet with European leaders. Facts. It's never about the facts. Here's Steve Witkoff. Listen.
There were concessions almost immediately made on the part of the Russians in the first meeting in Alaska. And, you know, part of getting those concessions was learning whether we were going to be able to see the Russians prepared to be more accommodating. And it was clear that's a bit of intelligence that's really important for us to see. And the president fleshed that out almost immediately. And that's what led to the length of the meeting. We stayed there for quite some time because we actually made progress on how we might get to a peace deal. You know, a ceasefire deal is very, very easy to break because it doesn't have all the ingredients attached to it. A peace deal is much more different. It's sturdy. And the president began to sense in this meeting in Alaska that we had a lot of the precursors agreed to for a peace deal. So why not pursue an entire peace deal? And of course, in this sort of nutty world, he got criticized for that. I sat and watched it and marveled at it, to tell you the truth.
President Trump, in the first few minutes, felt like there was a path to peace, not a path to cease, a path to peace. That's why it took so long. That's why he got on the horn immediately with Zelensky on the way back. Can the media just tell the truth? Or do you hate Trump and what he represents, which is the unraveling of the lies and the stories and the fake narratives and the shell corporations and the ghost phones and the pseudonyms and the garbage that they foisted upon us over the last God knows how many years? Donald Trump felt that this was possible. How triumphant for the world. Of course, that's not how it was covered in the media. You hear people who have no idea what they're talking about. This is your disconnect with the news people. How can somebody sitting in an air-conditioned studio in New York City have a damn clue about what's going on Air Force One? How can they have the foggiest possible iota of an idea of what Putin is all about and what Trump said to him and what's possible and what's going to happen next? They can't. But they hate Donald Trump so much, and they can't admit that they're part of this awful conundrum, this mess of deceit, the theft of an election, the setup of honorable, patriotic Americans at the Capitol, the demonizing them, of calling them rioters, arresting them, throwing them away, the abject disregard for anything real and honest. It's baffling. Here's Caroline Leavitt, marches right into the White House press briefing room yesterday. She's seen enough of the newspapers. She's heard enough of the weekend shows. And she goes scorched. Listen.
However, one thing that has absolutely not changed is the media's negative and downright false coverage of President Trump and his foreign policy accomplishments. From the beginning of this entire process, much of the left-wing media has been actively rooting against the President of the United States in the pursuit of peace. Initially, the media ridiculously claimed that President Trump was somehow beholden to Russia for even agreeing to have a face-to-face discussion with President Putin inside of the United States. The media said President Trump was making a grave mistake by, quote, legitimizing Putin. They were aghast that President Trump would treat another world leader like a world leader. The media relentlessly attacked President Trump and claimed he suffered a, quote, major defeat for not immediately emerging with a final agreement, even though he said heading into that meeting, this was a meeting to listen and to understand how to move the ball forward. All weekend following those historic U.S.-Russia bilateral talks, we listened to clueless pundits on television trying but failing to claim that the president had failed.
Margaret Brennan, I'm pretty sure Caroline Leavitt is talking to you, sweetness. And now John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, gets into Caroline's crosshairs. And she says, you know what? All of these so-called policy experts who sat out there chirping like they knew one of anything, who solved no problems ever. How dare you?
The so-called experts in the foreign policy establishment, whose record is nothing but endless wars, trillions of wasted taxpayer dollars, and dead Americans, have the nerve to try and lecture President Trump, who has solved 7 global conflicts in 7 months, about peace. This is the same president, by the way, who brokered the Abraham Accords in his first term, on top of more than half a dozen other peace deals this year alone, as I just said. We also saw yesterday the president of Ukraine and all of the other major leaders of Europe fly across the Atlantic Ocean to meet President Trump at the White House because of the progress that was made, and that, if you ask the media, failed meeting, but it was not. It was highly productive and it was successful. This is why Americans' trust in the mass media is at a lowest point in more than 5 decades. Diplomacy is a delicate process, and instead of reporting the facts about what is happening here at this White House and what is happening between this president and other leaders around the world, many outlets in this room continue to try to actively undermine the president and sabotage the efforts towards peace.
And sabotage the efforts towards peace. Who are you, John Bolton? I mean, who are you? Why on earth would you sit on a news set as a complete disconnected persona non grata now? Because you're a rhino hack. You're a deep state establishment hack. This is what he said over the weekend about President Trump making historic inroads towards peace. Listen.
Putin achieved most of what he wanted. Trump achieved very little. And I will say one other thing. I thought Trump looked very tired up there. I mean, very tired. Not disappointed, tired. And we'll have to reflect on what that means.
Really? I mean, are you out of your mind? That's your takeaway? He's tired because he flew to Alaska and then worked the phones and worked a 20-hour day. He's tired. Joe Biden was demented. Joe Biden wasn't present. Joe Biden wasn't in charge. Joe Biden wasn't signing his own name. And you think Trump looks tired? Got it. Caroline Leavitt finally says, we have movement towards peace instead of more deadly gridlock. And it's amazing how few of you in this White House press briefing room failed to report that.
There's no denying that Biden's America Last foreign policy moved the world further away from peace. President Trump rejected that failed approach, and instead, over the last 7 months, has relentlessly pursued peace throughout his second term. And thanks to President Trump's efforts, we finally have movement after years of deadly gridlock.
And the net result of this bloviating by the media, of Democrats refusing to factually simply cover what was said, to factually report on what Putin said. If they had, they would have had to report Putin agreeing with Trump and saying this war never would have happened had you been allowed to win in 2020. But he wasn't. And the entire mail-in ballot scam, the whole voting by mail nonsense, which President Trump will be signing an executive order imminently to permanently stop so that we don't have voting and elections that take weeks to come up with the answers and the winners of. Trump knows what happened, and they know he knows. And on a hot summer day last July, they got a 20-year-old kid to climb up on a roof. They got a Secret Service detail to not pay attention to that. So that young man could fire off multiple shots and nearly kill the person who is the conduit to peace. That's called crazy, right? Crazy, if we're being honest. When we come back on the...
Okay, I'm going to pause that there. As I've said numerous times before, I listen to Wendy Bell while I'm setting up my website, mertech.com, and while I'm looking for other videos. Now, I shared her video last night. I have a lot of great producers that I share. You know, I don't want to just share her all the time because there's other information out there that people need to know about. But when I heard this, I thought, man, I've got to save time to give everybody a bonus on this from Wendy Bell because great information. And I cannot disagree. Let me know if you disagree with her in the comments below. Let me know if you think she's off base. Anyway, clicking on the Rumble link, it shows you that this video does come from Wendy Bell. This is the video I shared with you. I'm following the channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. Got a lot of live chats here. Let me go ahead and copy those in to a comment. And slide down here, close that out, slide down here. Paste that in a comment because when this live stream is over, then the comments just kind of go away. So I think the input from the comments should be part of this video. So now it is. All right, let me do a quick refresh here. And video. And I've had 156 people watch this video so far. I've got 33 watching right now. And I've got 6 thumbs up. So, if I could get 27 of you to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, that would be absolutely fabulous. I would greatly appreciate that. And okay, I do have, over 55 videos here at Murtech.com. And I did share 5 of them with you, but there's a lot more information here that we haven't had a time or a chance to get to. So I do have my daily news wrap-up that's coming up about 9:30. So go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee, donut, sandwich, soft drink, or a beer, and meet me back here about 9:30, and we'll go from there. So thank you for your time. Hopefully I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless. Let me wrap this up with one more sponsor, and we'll get out of here.
Brooke Burke, a fixture in the entertainment and wellness industries for decades, known for her roles in Dancing with the Stars and Wild On, is not one to shy away from the spotlight. But shortly after she turned 50, despite her expertise, the fitness icon suddenly found herself battling a body that seemed to be working against her.
Now Brooke is opening up publicly about her experience because it's one millions of women face: unexplained weight gain, muscle loss, and declining energy. And she's revealing how she discovered one thing that made her leaner, stronger, and healthier than ever.
She says today at 53, she feels amazing and her abs are tighter today than they were 10 years ago. What changed for her was she began biohacking and discovered that she needed more protein. But not just any protein, one specific protein which was a total game changer. And when she found it, she says it was like uncovering a secret weapon for weight management and muscle gain. Everything changed. I'm leaner and stronger than I've been in my whole life.
She's sharing this with the world so both women and men can learn all about this revolutionary protein. Click the link in chat or scan the QR code on screen to watch.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless. Okay, there you have it, folks. Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll get to see you again later.